nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, so just to get a little brief rundown, this is a study session. We're going to be going over a lot of different things. We're in this for a very long time today, so I want all of you guys to be, or if we need a break, please let me know. Let Scott know that we need to take a 5-minute break, and we can do that at any time. Rachel also has, if you need drinks or anything, Rachel has some in the think tank, snacks. Feel free to grab some as well. Okay, let's see, anything else I'm missing on that? I don't think so. So we're gonna get right on with public comment. So I have a little something I'm gonna read just so everybody knows what we're doing. So pursuant to Board Bylaw 9323, we encourage members of the public to present their views to the board on matters listed in the agenda. So Rachel will call your name as they've been submitted. If you want to talk and you haven't made one, there are green cards in the back that you can go ahead and write your name on, and we'll call you up. Individual speakers have 4 minutes to address the board, and then just address the board, state your name. The one caveat is we cannot respond back to you, but being this is a study session, we have the ability where we don't in a regular board meeting to now, we can actually ask questions of staff and others based on your comments. So it's a little different than a regular board meeting, but still Brown Act, we can't have a back and forth conversation. Okay? All right, with that, we'll get started with public comment.
Okay, Ms. Sarita, you want to come on up?
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Hello, my name is Professor Serena Collier, and I have 4 kids in our district, 2 in middle school at Tierra del Sol and 2 in elementary school at Riverview, all in the Mandarin Immersion program. I have spent many volunteer hours, as you guys know, promoting our school at community events, on social media, and speaking to potential incoming parents. Unfortunately, I'm having a hard time promoting this program in good faith, knowing the middle school setting is inadequate and under-resourced. In regards to budget planning, I'm here today to ask you to reinvest in our Mandarin program by providing funding for a second Mandarin teacher at Tierra del Sol. Our middle school Mandarin program is in desperate need of your attention, priority, and funding. Wu Laishu is the only middle school teacher in the district, teaching 6 different content-specific courses. Her role requires heavy curriculum planning. She instructs over 100 students, and since you did not renew the contract with the Confucius Institute, she has also lost native Mandarin speaking assistants. She has to meet with 3 separate grade level planning teams for social studies and has no collaborative associates for Mandarin language instruction. With the removal of the Mandarin enrichment at LMS, the district's entire middle school Mandarin program relies solely on her, which puts the viability of the entire TK through 12th grade Mandarin program at great risk. I highly recommend you look at the other 2 Mandarin immersion schools in San Diego County as models for providing a sustainable, thriving program for their students. Barnard Elementary is a Mandarin-only immersion school with 23 immersion teachers on staff, offering a successful elementary, middle, and high school pathway. PB Middle has 3 Mandarin teachers, one of whom teaches 3 sections of Mandarin and 3 sections of art, as an example of how they find funding for a full workload with multiple Mandarin teachers. San Diego Unified is getting creative, which is what I'm asking you to do as well. Powell Unified also has a developed successful Mandarin immersion track that our district could learn from. Adobe Bluffs employs 15 Mandarin immersion teachers with continuous middle and high school track. Black Mountain Middle School employs 2 Mandarin teachers to sustain their program. This means Lakeside is the only district in all of San Diego County putting the weight of their immersion program onto 1 single teacher. As a member of the School Site Council at TDS, I've heard the district argue the current enrollment doesn't support funding of another Mandarin middle school teacher. However, this program will not grow in its current state. Word is getting around. Parents are talking about their disappointment with the middle school Mandarin program, and families are doubting whether to even begin this track. Families are leaving our program before and during middle school because of the poor structure of the middle school Mandarin model. I do feel Wu Laishu is doing the best job she probably can given the circumstances, but it's not beneficial for our students to have one overworked teacher for 2 periods for 3 years in a row. Providing another teacher to share this workload would give our students a more enriching experience and would improve the program's reputation across East County. Despite the board claiming last year that the immersion programs would be one of your top priorities for improvements, a non-native speaking Mandarin assistant teacher was hired, who current students claim can barely speak Mandarin. Then the district most recently decided to cut Mandarin offerings at LMS, even further limiting options for invested families. This hardly makes it seem like the sport is prioritizing or even considering the health of the Mandarin immersion program. Families now have many other options for high-quality Mandarin immersion programs. This program started at TDS with 2 teachers many years ago, with even fewer students than we have now. So it has been done before, and it is possible again with your support. I hope this board decides to fulfill the promises you made to your constituents when you said you were committing to investing in our immersion track, and put attention, effort, and most importantly, funding into our middle school Mandarin immersion program. Lastly, I just want to say that I'm not here just to complain at you. I am more than willing to volunteer my time as a parent of 4 and a full-time professor. I'm willing to volunteer time to help work with you on improving this program, and so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
We do. We have 2 written comments, so I'll read those now.
This is from Lorena J. Perkins, Doctor of Physical Therapy. Good evening, Superintendent Gergens and Lakeside Union School District Board of Trustees. I am unable to attend this special board meeting tomorrow in person, so in lieu of my attendance, I would like to share my thoughts regarding the following concerns. I'm writing as a parent of 2 students currently enrolled in the Mandarin language program. I would like to formally share my concerns regarding the current health and sustainability of the Mandarin program at Tierra del Sol Middle School. At present, the school supports 3 grade levels within the Mandarin program, yet there is only 1 teacher assigned to serve all 3. This staffing model raises significant concerns about the quality, consistency, and effectiveness of instruction being provided to students. For any parent, this is understandably alarming, as it directly affects both instructional time and individualized student support. Without adequate staffing, students' learning will inevitably suffer. Language acquisition requires consistent exposure, guidance, practice, and feedback, none of which can be fully realized when 1 teacher is stretched across multiple grade levels. The long-term impact of the shortage will also create a ripple effect, weakening the program for future students and undermining the district's investment in dual language education. I respectfully urge the board to carefully examine how the Mandarin program is being funded, staffed, as well as the long-term implications for its longevity at Tierra del Sol and El Capitan High School. Our students deserve equitable access to high-quality instruction, and the success of this program depends on providing the resources necessary for it to thrive. Thank you for your time, leadership, and commitment to our students. And then we have one more written comment, and this is from Brianna Atherton, who is a parent of 2 Mandarin immersion students at Tierra del Sol Middle School. Good evening, Lakeside School Board members. Please consider our voices on this subject. I've been reflecting on the long-term health of our Mandarin language program at Tierra del Sol Middle School. While we are fortunate to have this program, the current 1 teacher for 3 different grade levels is simply not sustainable for future and current students. Language learning isn't like other subjects. It requires a high volume of interaction, guided support, and customized curriculum per grade. When 1 teacher is stretched this thin, the quality of instruction naturally suffers, which eventually leads to lower enrollment and a weaker program overall. I want to see our kids graduate as capable global citizens, but they need a properly supported environment to get there. Instructors need support as well to feel comfortable and capable of teaching this many students in grades, especially when they have voiced concerns themselves. My children personally have had to work extremely hard to communicate with this teacher to keep their grades up in her classes. The instruction here suffers, and it is clear we need more instructors for the Mandarin program at TDS. While my children currently hold a good grade with her, it has not always been this way or easy. I don't want my children to simply have to survive or make it through the program here and hope they learned enough to be ready for high school levels. These kids all deserve a chance to thrive in this program. Isn't that what it's about? Please consider how we can better invest in additional staff to ensure the program remains a point of pride for our district. Thank you. Sincerely, Brianna Atherton.
If anybody has comment cards, you can bring them right up front here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Teresa McCormick. I have 2 kids at LMS, a 6th grader and 8th grader. They are among the students in the Mandarin enrichment class for 0 period at LMS. They have been doing Mandarin since they started at Riverview. And as we know, half of the Riverview kids go to LMS, half go to TDS. My appeal is to continue investing financially in the program K through 8 in instructors. So Mandarin hasn't been as robust at Riverview for a few years now, so they've gotten less exposure overall, which means a little less interest as they go into the middle school level. If we continue to feed that interest and invest in starting in Riverview, it can continue to bolster that interest. And what we as parents see is those who graduate trilingual from LCAP, that's a huge bonus or a draw to us to continue going through the district altogether. So not just LCAP, but LUSD, because that's where the trilingual program lies. Like, we're out of district. We could go to Poway. That was our original intent until we found out about the triliteracy program too. My kids love it in the Mandarin program. I disagree that LMS isn't offering us a huge boon. They're still excelling really well in their Mandarin. Since coming from Riverview, they're still acquiring a lot of Mandarin. So I don't want to say that Ms. Hood is inadequate. It would be ideal to continue getting somebody who is a native speaker, but she's doing a fantastic job, and my kids they're talking to each other in Mandarin, and that's really exciting. So it's like, we have no language to talk. We used to be able to talk to each other in Spanish, and the kids would understand. We're like, okay, we don't have that. And now they get to talk in a language that we can't understand at all. So it's really exciting. But I really want to say how much we've enjoyed the program, and I really want to see it continue to grow. Otherwise, like we might end up going out of our original plan, having to pivot, which is really sad for us as families. But please continue to invest. I would love to continue singing at LMS. Please don't cut it. I don't want to have to move my kid from LMS to a different school, and that's probably what's going to happen since we've been working toward this goal for so long. So, thanks, board.
Do we have any other comments?
I do not.
Okay, all right, with that, we'll move straight into our first presentation of the day, which is going to be our 2 principals from Lakeside Middle School and Tierra del Sol that will present on our workforce and CTE course development that we've been working on through committee, the recent resolution, and just some good work that we've been doing in general. Who's starting out for us?
That would be me.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, board. Just to kind of start with the workforce programming, I really got a taste of this when I was at LCAP as an assistant principal and seeing the FFA program, and really what it was doing to produce kids that were job ready, whether it's welding or being a florist or whatever skills that they were learning in that program. It really instilled something in me as far as the value of CTE offerings. So when we first started talking about workforce programming, I took this back to my site and said, teachers, and this was VAPA teachers, this is CTE teachers, what are we offering where kids can have these pathways or opportunities to potentially look for work outside of high school? And so they kind of compiled this information that you're seeing before you. And really when it comes to CTE offerings, we have Ag Science for our 6th graders. We have Project Lead the Way for our 6th graders. And what we are proposing for the 26-27 school year is to do a CTE shop exploration program. A lot of the emphasis in kind of what we have or what we're looking to do is really kind of mirror and build into what the high schools are doing. So Santana has a fantastic CTE program. They do a lot of CAD designing, DFAT type of stuff, and so what we're going to do is we're going to create a pathway with CTE programming to feed kids into Santana. Additionally, LCAP also has a construction pathway. Currently they're doing things like building a tiny home, and they do earthquake preparedness for buildings and bridges and things like that. That's just a micro, piece of what they do, but we're also going to have a pathway that feeds kids into El Capitan High School. So we'll have a teacher that's doing 2 different types of programming within our shop class so that we can forward kids on and give them the skills to be job ready when they complete high school. In addition to that, we have VAPA offerings that include art, 3D art, graphic design, things that, you know, in the current climate that we live in, there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to web-based, computer-based designing. And so we have a lot of programming in terms of that. And this is just as, you know, if you look at the 6th grade, you know, that's just across the board, kind of some of the things that we have going on. We have this VAPA element, so kids that are dancers or drama enthusiasts, actors, actresses, there's a lot of opportunity. We currently have a student at our school that's professionally acting. She has an IMDb page and she's in TV shows, and so there are opportunities for those kids too. If you've seen the quality of dance program that we have at LMS, you would know that some of these kids could be potentially dancing professionally right now. So that also is something that is an opportunity for kids. They could feed into either LCAP or Santana. Not a CTE pathway, but it still is a workforce opportunity for these kids, or should be considered such. As far as guest speakers go, we have a lot of opportunity there too. So this is just for the 6th grade level. When we scroll down and we look at the 7th grade opportunities, so kids can take ag science too. Again, further preparing them for that particular pathway at El Capitan High School. As 7th graders, they can also take agricultural leadership. So that kind of gives them a little bit more depth into the program. In order to qualify or receive some of the accreditation for the ag programming, you have to be in 7th grade. So that's why we don't have an ag program for an ag leadership program for 6th graders, because it really starts for 7th and 8th grade students, although we do offer that agricultural science for 6th grade students. But still we have Project Lead the Way, and again, if you look at underneath that in this first column here, Intro to Design and Fabrication. So this would be like the first step towards that pathway, and then we have Intro to Woodshop. So again, we're starting to solidify where these kids might be going as they're choosing a particular pathway. There's a lot of information and research about CTE completers and how it increases graduation rates. So if we start preparing our kids now with this type of programming, it's only going to lead to positive benefits towards grad completion in high school. Moving down the columns towards the right, as 7th graders, they can take studio art, they can take advanced art, they can take 3D design, graphic design, digital illustration, and then yearbook. So that writing, photography component that you know, again, is a big part of our culture and what you need to do to be successful in a lot of industries. Theater tech is a class, then we have the show choir. All the choral stuff begins to get a little bit deeper and a little bit more involved as far as what those kids are able to produce. Moving one more column to the right, these are the field trip opportunities that kids will have as 7th graders. So some of this stuff in green is science related. So state conferences for FFA, we've got the Discovery Leadership Conference, we've got the zoo, Safari Park, SeaWorld, our potential field trip opportunities, and then we have the Lakeside River Park Conservancy. So recently I took 3 teachers over there and we had a chance to tour their facility. They have some new stuff going on over there, but really, I'm gonna get down to the bottom of this, but as we're looking at Project Lead the Way, currently we have a lot of stuff that's kind of tech related, and Project Lead the Way has a lot of offerings. So there's a medical investigation offering, there's a biosciences offering, and what I'm going to propose, and this isn't something that I'm going to put on my teachers, but it is something that I'm going to see if my teachers want to partner with me on this, with the blessing of the board and the blessing of the cabinet. I'm going to have a 6th grade class that's specific Project Lead the Way, something very different than what the 7th grader is going to get, than what the 8th grader is going to get. And so each class, each grade level, they're going to get a very different scientific CTE related experience that will be for all kids. So we won't have this advanced science, regular science. It'll be every kid gets this science experience that, if you know, Project Lead the Way is its own curriculum, but what we're currently doing is we are matching that with the current science standards. So they're getting both in the Project Lead the Way science class. And so, again, this is something that, we have started these conversations with my science team, but there's a lot of moving parts, but in a perfect world, the kids that come to Lakeside Middle School will get a very, very specific cultured Project Lead the Way experience that in some ways really mirrors and works well with our community here at Lakeside community. So 8th grade, we've got currently Ag Science 3 project, Lead the Way. The kids are looking at flight and space. And then we have the advanced design and fabrication, so that would be a capstone class, and then advanced woodshop, which would be a capstone class. Moving down the columns, you know, it kind of goes from intermediate to advanced in all the things, so studio art, advanced art, 3D design, graphic design, digital illustration. Same type of opportunities for the field trips, guest speakers, all the works. Down here, curriculum and supplements. So each one of these are columns for our grade level offerings. And so some of this stuff, so this is what's offered currently in the district. So no formal art curriculum is provided. What we do is we generate a lot. We use our Prop 28 funding to buy materials, buy supplies, so that these classes have really unique and enriched offerings. The project Lead the Way curriculum, integrated with the science curriculum, as I already shared, that's across all grade levels currently. Down here, here's some of the supplemental stuff that we purchased that kind of really enrich the experience. So currently we buy VEX robotics kits for 6th graders. There's a MakerBot and a Volix Lab, so 3D printers for our 7th graders. We had some of this stuff on display. So we have purchased CNC machines. We had a laser engraver going yesterday. And so these are things that would be incorporated into this current model that we're going to run next year for the 2 separate pathways that we're offering. Down here at the very, very bottom is our 26-27 considerations. So Project Lead the Way, automation and robotics for 6th graders. Project Lead the Way for 7th graders would be green architecture. And then Project Lead the Way for 8th graders would be medical detectives. So again, like there is a lot of meat on the bone, and in looking at some of the offerings, our teachers may want to pivot on some of these ideas, but ultimately what my vision is to really kind of pair what we want to offer with what the community has and what kind of jobs we're looking at of being available in this community. So kids that graduate from high school can have an opportunity to get a job immediately if that's what they want to do. Or they'll have a leg up on the competition if they're trying to jump right into a trade. So yes, I want all of our kids, I want kids to go to college, I want kids to have those enriched opportunities, but I also want to be cognizant of kids that might not be where they want to go. And we do want to make sure that these kids have as much experience as we can. And I believe by this plan that we have and this map really kind of guides our kids towards great success. This is by no means a complete picture. This is, the beginnings of, or stage 1 of, a vision that I have for our school. So, thank you very much.
Before we move on to Leslie, does anybody have specific questions or extra thoughts?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
I kind of want to hear Melissa.
Sounds
I have a
great.
question. You have a wood shop here someplace, right?
Correct.
And I was in that classroom before visiting. Are you in any contact with the Associated General Contractors?
So I just recently began to connect and network with the Chamber of Commerce. So the vision, again, and none of this is really included yet, I guess the guest speaker portion, but connecting with the Chamber of Commerce and all of the opportunities within the businesses that we have here will be something that we are looking to do. Bringing these guest speakers in that have expertise in engineering or construction or whatever field, and they're talking to our kids and lending their expertise and their different insights that they have about opportunities and such. But to answer the question, we are going to go in that direction, but really a lot of this is vision casting and then building it and then incorporating some of those elements.
I would, if you haven't been there, I would encourage you to see it's unbelievable. And they have internships, apprenticeships, scholarships that they offer, and it's right here in the city and our community.
Yeah.
Right. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
go up, see that 100 up there on the, so you've got the title, and then under that you have a bar, and there's 100. You can,
Thank you. All right, well, piggybacking on what Michael talked about, and I do want to thank him because the overall format was a format that he put together, so thank you. And it allowed all of us to be able to kind of do the same thing, have conversations with our team and put everything together. So our elective program at TDS, we have a number of VAPA offerings and elective offerings, but in terms of CTE, kind of been having the same conversations with our teachers. We have gone more into career explorations as far as CTE and the KTDS. KTDS is our broadcasting elective that we offer. But what we noticed when we did a tour at Santana is they have an entrepreneurship and marketing CTE, which the students are extremely proud of and is very impacted. And so we talked about expanding our KTDS program to have a KTDS 1, 2, and 3, and 6, 7, and 8. So that way that can specifically lead into Santana's marketing and broadcasting elective pathway. And so that is, we do have a small number of students who do go to Santana, and when we toured and we took our 8th graders there, we found that our 8th graders were very interested in that pathway as well. So we felt if we could start with that, that would allow students to be able to go there and be focused on the media and entrepreneurship pathway. For our career explorations, we invested this year in Paxton and Patterson. And this was a huge investment, and so because of that huge investment, we kind of had to choose between Paxton and Patterson and Project Lead the Way, because we couldn't financially sustain both. And so we felt like with Paxton and Patterson, we would get more bang for our buck. They offer 33 different modules, and so we were able to purchase 10 modules in the first year, and the goal is to purchase 10 more each year. So that way, this is our first year, and so we have cosmetology and barbering, we have criminalistics, we have EMT, digital manufacturing, we have energy and power, we have home maintenance fundamentals, so our students are practicing drywalling, we have plumbing, and intro to healthcare systems, and then we also have veterinary science. And so our students, as they're going through these different modules, they're able to see and practice hands-on. There's a computer component to it, and then there's the actual physical hands-on part to it. And so students have to complete both in order to pass the module to move on to the next one. So this year, we currently have 34 students who are in that specific elective, and the goal is to grow next year. We have another teacher start teaching it, and then the year after that, we have another teacher. So within this 3-year pathway, we have a 6th, a 7th, and an 8th grade class. So that way the 6th graders are experiencing 10 modules, 7th grade they'll experience another 10, and then 8th grade they'll experience the last 13. And so we've been looking at CTE grants. Every year, Lakeside has applied for a CTE grant, and that's where a bulk of the foundation of buying Paxton and Patterson came in, and then we've just been approved for the next one, so we have enough to purchase the next 10 modules for next year. We are also looking at our Title I funds. We were able to get some more, and so we want to be able to make sure that we're able to financially invest in the next couple of years so that we can buy all 33 modules for our students. Great thing about Paxton and Patterson is that every single one of these modules leads into a pathway that is at LCAP. So they have construction, they have ag, they have robotics, and so if our students go through all 33 modules, they'll have an understanding of every pathway that leads into into LCAP, and that's not even on top of the other electives that we're offering. So we all of us have like art, drama, music. All of even our regular electives do a good job at reaching out to LCAP and having some type of partnership, because both middle schools, their band programs go to LCAP, go to Santana to play in the football games. We're constantly getting our students on their campus so they're more familiar with the electives that that El Cap and Santana offer. Our foreign language department, of course, we do have Spanish 1 as an elective, but our global language program, our immersion programs at both middle schools feed into El Cap's GLLP program. For our robotics electives, we do have Robotics 1 and Robotics 2, and most of those robotics programs are basically for competition purposes. He runs a Lego League, he runs a VEX League, Mr. Nguyen, and has our students not only for their specific elective during the day, but he also offers a period 8 elective for students to be able to come build their robots to get them ready for competition. And that class has 43 students in it. That is how popular period 8 is, to be able to build their robots and to be able to go compete. Great thing about that is when we started robotics, it became so popular when our students graduated and went to El Cap, they started a robotics program at El Cap, which allows our El Cap students now to come back to TDS and help their students with the high school level building that they need for competitions. And it has really been a great partnership between the high school and the middle school. Mr. Nguyen has also reached out to some of our parents who work in South Bay, who work in Chula Vista, in robotics areas, and they've been able to reach out to schools down there, so we've been able to go on a number of different competitions around San Diego County, just showcasing all the hard work that our students have been doing, and that's been great. The other part of the robotics and what I put in your packets is Mr. Nguyen has been working on a partnership with San Diego County of Ed for our underwater robotics. And so he now runs an underwater robotics academy after school as well, and we're going to continue to build on that. He has been getting a lot of the materials from San Diego County of Ed and been working with them one-on-one, and so the hope is to continue to build interest in that and hopefully make that an elective as well, so students can have more hands-on opportunities, not only on our campus, but more opportunities to go just work around San Diego and compete and see other schools as they're doing this work as well. So that is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The long-term proposed for career explorations is to build on explorations 1, 2, and 3 to continue to get those modules. We also started environmental studies last year. We have a gardening class, and then we also have an environmental studies class which focus around recycling, sustainability, and the hope is to meet with El Cap and look at their ag program. They have a floral part, they have different parts of agriculture, so the goal is to try to meet with them and see what we can do with our environmental studies electives that would lead naturally into our students also joining ag. For 8th grade, same exact thing. We have a lot of field trips and guest speaker experiences. Our students for dance, they've been to the ballet, drumming and KTDS, and band. Spent a lot of time on San Diego State's campus working with the School of Theater or the School of Music and making sure that our students are able to be on their campuses and see what they offer. We've done a KUSI tour, Balboa Park, walking field trips with Lindo Park. We spend a lot of time on Lindo Park's campus so that our students, their students are prepared when they come to middle school. So our 4th and 5th grade students at Lindo Park are very comfortable with our campus now because they come at least once a month and contribute with our crew challenges and work with our ASB students, so that's been amazing. We've also spent a lot of time at Linda Vista Innovation Center with Mr. Nguyen. He takes his students at least once a trimester so that they can be comfortable with all the rotations that they have at that Innovation Center as well. And if you haven't been there, it is absolutely amazing what they offer their students. The other part, so that is the elective part of CTE. The next part is the cross-curricular part of CTE, because one of the draws of TDS is that we do cross-curricular work grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. The purpose of doing cross-curricular work is to make sure that all of the standards that our students are using, they are practicing those standards no matter what class they go into. So we will create a cross-curricular project. They will do one part of it in science. Science is actually the anchor of all of our cross-curricular projects. And based on the phenomena or the specific essential question that the students are studying in science, they will build a project that English will have a piece, math will have a specific component, history, PE, and they all come together to create their projects. The great part about that and why that continues to be an essential part of CTE is because of the field trips and guest speaker experiences. For grade 6, for example, they did a cross-curricular project for Long Walk to Water. It talks about the standard connection for each of the subject levels. What's really important are the opportunities that we have for the community to get on our campus and speak to our students. For Long Walk to Water, our students got a field trip to the Helix Water District and was able to walk around and be able to speak to a professional. We had some local construction companies, environmental associations. They did a splash lab. We spent time at the river park, and then we also had guest speaker experiences. For every single cross-curricular project that our students go through, there will be one specific field trip or experience as well as a guest speaker experience that they get to participate in. And we're also making sure that we reach out to, for example, our 6th graders are going to be building cabins for Percy Jackson, so we will be reaching out to AGC, the apprentices, Summit College, which is a construction college in El Cajon, and just making sure that our students have as many hands-on experiences as possible. And that is for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Each grade level now at least has one specific cross-curricular project, and we're continuing to grow that. The goal is for them to have at least one cross-curricular project per trimester over the next few years. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions, Dr. Hardin, on this?
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for presenting this. I really appreciate the two of you guys taking the time to do that. We had another.
Do you want to go back to
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Peloso? Do you want to come up? You have 4 minutes to speak if you want to.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jenna Lee Veloso. I'm a parent of students at Riverview and Winter Gardens Elementary School in the Mandarin program. So I just came to speak on the Mandarin program at TDS. I know there was a hit to the LMS program, and it seems like most of the Mandarin students feed into TDS anyway because they have the stronger program. So I just wanted to reiterate what some parents have said and hopefully some emails that you've gotten about kind of giving more support to our Mandarin program at TDS. I know there's only one teacher for all of the classes, and that's a lot. And you know, for a program that brings in a lot of people outside of the Lakeside community, like I, for one, live in Santee, and the only reason I have my kids in the Lakeside School District is because of the Mandarin program specifically. It's a great program, the teachers are great, my kids love it, it's made them look interested in learning other languages, and we are a single language household. We only speak English in our household, so it's not a scary thing to teach your kids another language that you don't know. And I think it's opened a lot of opportunities for them in just the way they think of the world. And I think it's a program that can be really successful if we continue to support it. And it would help if we had a little bit more support for our TDS program, especially feeding into LCAP. Speaking to the Mandarin students from LCAP, they seem to be doing really well as well. They continue to enjoy learning the languages, and now, you know, we have a relationship at our school with the students there, and it's been really nice just kind of seeing everything come full circle, especially as a parent of younger kids that aren't quite at that level yet. So I'm hoping that we can find it in the budget to get another teacher at TDS to help with the Mandarin program, and hopefully also
get some more help at even Riverview so that we can try to keep that program trilingual, which I think originally it was supposed to be. And they're getting that enrichment, but I know the limit on how much enrichment that kids can get in the other language is held back because we don't have enough Mandarin support. So that's all I had to say. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Alright, so we will move on to Lisa Davis, who will give a presentation on budget. Okay.
Okay, in your binder, under the second tab, I believe for the audience, if anybody wants to follow along, there's some copies on the table. We are gonna talk about our budget, delve a little bit deeper than what we usually do for our interim budgets. And, so the first few pages are just, I did some overviews of, and some highlights, before we dig into the programs and the staffing and the direction that the board wants to move into and, in the next few years. So the second page of the packet, this is local control funding formula, and I just wanted to highlight again, because it can be a little bit confusing to folks about property tax and state funding and stuff like that. So this is our LCFF, this is our core funding that we get. This is our ongoing funding. It's not restricted with one-time uses. It's not one-time dollars that come periodically. This is our ongoing funding source. So our entitlement for our district for this year, as of our first interim, and this includes our property taxes, is $54,451.03. Divided up, our property taxes are 14 million, a little over 14 million. And then how our state's funded is property tax, and property tax doesn't come up to what the per pupil state mandated funding is for each state in California. The state backfills that through the LCFF entitlement. So you can clearly see that our property taxes by far do not reach what we should be getting, that's what the state mandates that our children should be funded at. So the state backfills $40 million. Out of our property taxes, I want to point out that there's a portion of in lieu of property taxes that goes to any charter schools that the district sponsors or authorizes. So currently this year, about almost $1 million goes out of our property taxes to the charter schools. It's a mechanism that the state created when they developed the charter school systems. What happens is we upfront these dollars through the apportionment of like what the state apportionment comes monthly. We have this calculation, we give it to the charter schools monthly as a regular apportionment, and then at the end of the school year, we true up what actually came in, what the actual ADA is, you know, what the calculation ends up being at the end of the school year. We don't lose this money. Where this money comes in is through our apportionment. The state, I guess, I have no idea why, but they just wanted the districts who authorized to front load the dollars to the charter schools through a monthly apportionment. And then, but school districts don't actually lose that money. It comes back to us through our state apportionment. So I just wanted to make that clear. I think sometimes people get that a little muddied. And then, so this year, our LCFF entitlement per ADA is just a little over $12,000. And again, this is based off of our unrestricted general fund dollars. This is our base, this is our ongoing funding that doesn't have any special restrictions, isn't a one-time. These are our funds that we have realistically to operate with. So going into this year's one-time dollars, and then I'll talk, we've been having, Laura, Scott, and I went to the Capital Advisors January budget proposal from the governor for next year's budget to hear what the governor's proposal is for next year. Sam's today at School Services, listening to their presentation of what the governor's budget looks like. Again, this is just the initial. The legislature will meet with they'll look over the governor's proposal. There'll be a lot of negotiating between the two. And then May revise comes, and then there'll be the proposals, hopefully a blend, or they accept the governor's proposal or whatnot. And then there's still more until the governor has to adopt a budget June 30th. So next year's somewhat unknown, but this year, I'll jump into I'm gonna jump into first the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. We had gotten that back in 22-23. We had received the apportionment. I believe it was the following year, the governor then, there were some budget constraints, the state budget constraints. So the governor pulled back the apportionment that was promised to school districts. All of us pretty much thought that we would never see those dollars again. This year, for 25-26, he's making up the dollars that were taken away back in 23-24. But what he's doing is, beginning this year, the apportionment for our district was around $663,000. He's divvying it up 3 years though, so he's only given us, equates to be about around $220,000 this year, 25, 26, and 26, 27. No, I'm sorry. 25, 26, 26, 27, and 27, 28. It expires in 28. And then there were some, going into this year, he did add some additional ties to those dollars that districts need to do. They have to include the dollars into the LCAP that it didn't used to have to. And then there's a needs assessment that has to be done in this year. So that's these one-time funds. The next page shows how we put it into our budget. So for this year, for 25-26, the revenue that we're receiving is $221,815. We're funding one TOSA, and then a little bit, whatever's left out of the one TOSA, we're pushing that over onto one of our other TOSAs. So that, I mean, we just, you guys have heard us talk about this. We're constantly looking at ways to maximize our dollars, especially with the restricted dollars, to use those first before we dip into our unrestricted general fund. So this is what we're doing. We're constantly making journal entries and adjustments to some of the planned expenditures with these one-time dollars. So you can see in this year, we're funding one TOSA that leaves about $32,000 left. And so we're backfilling on another TOSA those dollars. And so we plan that for the next 3 years. The 221 funds the TOSA, or the one TOSA, and then a little bit of extra to another TOSA for that salary. I wanted to notate in here that these expenditures, especially the ones that are tied to salaries, we have not finished negotiations yet this year. So these dollars that I'm showing you, they don't reflect any kind of a salary increase to the salaries of the staff. So that would go up once we finish negotiations. So proposed for 26-27, and I just called Sam before I came out here to find out if there was any, because we didn't hear on Tuesday what the dollar amount is going to be for the districts. What they're saying is statewide, how much the governor's planning on funding towards, and this is the final payment in 26-27 of the loan recovery dollars. They didn't, school services didn't mention it either, so it'll come out later. Kind of, if I could do my crystal ball best guess, is we may be looking at an additional $250,000 next year and the year after. They're keeping it the exact same expiration date though, which is kind of a bummer. Wish they would have pushed it out one more year, just to kind of spread things. But they're keeping the exact same, so June 30th, 2028, these funds expire completely. And then just, again, the estimates, TBD right now, because nothing's came out, it's about $700-800 million the governor's planning on investing into this final round of it for next year. So, so that's it for learning recovery. Student support, this one, and it doesn't even have a good acronym. SSAPDDBG. I was gonna say student support, discretionary block grant. I'll leave off the middle part. So for this year, 25-26, we received some new one-time dollars. Must be fully expended by June 30th of 2029. It gives what it is fully, and I want to point out, this is language straight from CDE. For discretionary purposes, including but not limited to the following. So they list these bullet points of things that the CDE and the government would like to see districts, but then the last one is addressing rising costs. And that's what I've been hearing from numerous people, is that's really where a lot of this money is gonna go to in the majority of districts, is to address rising costs. And pay for increased health benefits, and pay for increased SDG&E, things like that, where if they're looking at a structural deficit in their unrestricted general fund, they're going to try to shore up and make that whole on the general fund side by subsidizing some of these dollars. Not all, that wouldn't be right, all, but they're just looking at a very broad view of how to utilize these dollars. So, the next chart shows we're expected to receive, well, we will receive, because we've already gotten that calculation. And this year, we'll receive the whole dollar amount to be spent for over the next 4 years. It's, we're expected, we will be receiving $1.3 million. So I'm breaking down here. I want to show the board what the planned expenditures are, because what we have coming up are, this year, we're just gonna offset some of these dollars towards the TOSA expenses, because, and I'll get into that, educator effectiveness dollars right now are funding our TOSAs. We have 3.6 TOSAs. And so we blended, there's not quite enough for the educator effectiveness dollars to fully fund all of the TOSAs, so backfilled with some of the learning recovery block grant. So then moving into next year, and a little bit of this year, we may need to use some of the student support block grant dollars towards the TOSA expense. And you can see that then it leaves a balance of about 1.2 million. So going into, so we have some big things coming up. 26, 27, and 27, and 28 are very big years for our large contracts that are coming due. We usually do 3 to 5 year contracts with some of these folks. They're all coming due in the next couple of years. So the proposal would be to next year spend $1.1 million on our Achieve 3000, Imagine Learning, and our NWEA contracts. And I put the dollar amounts in there to show, our projected costs of what those contracts would be. And then the following year, we have Seesaw and Amplify coming due. Amplify is a very, very large contract. And, we'll only have going into 27-28 about $99,000. So just put 60 for the CSOC contract, the balance to Amplify, but then that still leaves a balance of about $1.2 million for Amplify. Moving forward, there's another proposed influx, and I wish that they would change the name. They have not changed the name of this, but it is a new one-time, yeah, they're keeping the same name, which is gonna be really confusing. I'm sure they'll give us, hopefully, a separate resource number so that we can identify the monies, but I don't know yet. A lot of this is TBD. But what's proposed in the governor's budget is, another infusion of the student support dollars. It'll be approximately $500 per ADA. Just rough guess right now for us, that would mean a little over $2 million. So one possibility is to use these dollars to pay the balance of the 1.2 for Amplify, and then the balance would leave almost $1 million that we could talk about. I showed on the next just the CT workforce, just to give the board an idea of what I love hearing both of our middle school principals talking about the great stuff that they're doing here with CTE. These dollars here are what's helping staff to be able to do the great work that they're doing for these programs. So this is a balance Leslie spoke to. We just were approved for another infusion of the CT and then $182,000. So that hasn't been put into the budget yet, but so good stuff for that, but it's very specific to the use of it. And but super thankful for getting these dollars, because then it does allow staff to do some like really cool stuff for the kiddos. Title I schools. So, and this isn't a Lakeside thing, I've been talking in our CEO group. This is a county-wide, actually statewide thing. Districts, unduplicated pupil numbers have dramatically gone down. So what that impacts is our Title I funding and any kind of federal funding, it will impact that. Various reasons why, but it's just everybody's experienced the numbers going down. For us, what this means, and it's to keep on our radar and just to watch and be conservative and careful with managing our Title I dollars now, because the threshold for Title I funding, there's a hold harmless year if you fall below that threshold. One of our schools fell below it last year, so this year was the hold harmless year. They did not meet the threshold again this year. They are completely out of Title I. They do not receive that funding anymore. This year, 2 schools are on the bubble, and if they don't make the threshold next year, they will be completely out of Title I. The following year, in our projections, there's another school that'll be on the bubble the following year, and then the year after that, they'll be out of Title I. So then that would leave us 4 years out, basically 4 years out, with just 2 Title I schools. It would be one in Preston and Hill Park. Their numbers are still high, so they're not at risk of losing Title I dollars, but 4 other schools that either have lost Title I dollars or at a very real risk of losing the Title I dollars. So I just wanted to bring up that news. I just wanted to do a slide on our teachers on special assignment, and the board wanted to talk about that. So currently we have 3.6 FTE funded from a blend of educator effectiveness and the Learning Recovery Block Grant. with a cost of about $1.1 million, again, does not reflect this dollar amount for this year does not reflect any salary increases that we're currently negotiating with our bargaining unit. Again, educator effectiveness funds have to be fully expensed by June 30th, 2026, so the end of this fiscal year. And then what I just shared with you earlier about the Learning Recovery Block Grant funds, how those work. We also have one FTE TOSA that's funded from our unrestricted general fund. It's in our LCAP under supplemental funds that we have. It's a requirement in the general fund. It's not additional money, but there's a calculation for the supplemental funds of putting those dollars towards services for kiddos to help them. Our requirement this year is about $4 million. We far exceed that dollar amount of our requirement for supplemental services for our students. So we more than meet and never have any risk of falling below what the calculation always ends up being. It varies each year, but we're never at any risk of not meeting that, the supplemental funding within our unrestricted general fund. We also have a 0.8 FTE funded from our ELOC funds. That TOSA is the one who's doing the after-school encore program, and so those funds look like they will continue to be ongoing. I'm not hearing anything about there's a risk of those funds going away. And then one FTE funded from SPED. So those are our district TOSAs. And then we'll talk about our facilities. Christine gave me some bullet points on currently what's in progress. There's a lot going on. We are going to do 2 more ESS buildings at Riverview and Lemoncrest. It's about $1.7 million that's funded out of ELOC because they are ESS buildings. Portable classroom siting, she's been going around and really trying to do, maintenance on our buildings, even our portables and stuff. They've just deteriorated a lot, so we just need some TLC to our facilities. Again, we don't get facility monies anymore, so it has to come from our general fund. There's usually a contribution that we make out of the general fund to put over into our fund 40 to designate for the projects that Christine says she really needs to do. She's trying to prioritize the high priority and go on down. But there's some painting at LMS. The bus yard chargers were still, doesn't it seem like it's been forever? Still not done. We still haven't received the last 6 buses and the chargers for those buses. So there's some things still rolling along as different entities outside of our school district can schedule us in and get that stuff done. Tree trimming, we're putting in motorized theater seating at LMS. Williams, not complaints, I don't want to call it complaints, but just the Williams items. Well, it was the Williams visits that we just had at a couple of our school sites, that there were some notations that really should be addressed, and so she's on that. She's getting those things fixed. Our firework orders, just regular work orders. The biggest thing that's coming up is asphalt and roofing. Our district's in desperate need of asphalt and roofing across all sites. So what we're doing is just tackling it, and it's usually the best time to do these types of projects is over the summertime, so it doesn't impact classrooms, hopefully. And so we're just gonna tackle them a couple of school sites at a time and what our budget can support, and start tackling the roofing and the asphalt at school sites. So those are what's in the queue right now or actually happening. Upcoming projects, we did, because it's a requirement now of Prop 2, that we have to have a long range facilities plan, so we went out and did an RFP on that, and it'll be on the February's board agenda meeting. Christine selected, I think she got 4 proposals. She selected one, so we'll get our long range facilities plan updated. I think the last one was 2016, I believe. So, and then just roofing, priority based. You know, like I just said, she'll just start each summer chipping away from high priority to the ones who can make it a few more years. We're doing a lemon press kitchen expansion. If the funds are available within ELOC, we'd like to do 2 more ESS buildings at, I think, which ones are left? I think LMS and Lendo Park, maybe? But we would like to have new ESS buildings at each site as the dollars continue to be there from ELOC. Painting, flooring and repairs, asphalt, and then just the site appearance and safety improvements. So there's a lot going on there. The next page is just showing that the majority of our district facilities, the funding comes from a contribution, like I just said, from the general fund. And then whatever interest is generated in that fund balance each year. And that's really what we have to maintain and improve our facilities. So our beginning fund balance this year was 1.1 million. We're anticipating about 85,000 in interest to generate from that fund. Right now, we'll update the expenditures based on Christine's latest proposals across the district. And, but we'll need to keep putting influxes of dollars, making the contribution from our general fund over into Fund 40 to maintain. I always like to, if we can, anywhere between $300,000 to $500,000 to shift over. Some years we can, some years we can't. Just to keep that ongoing, and so that our maintenance folks can continue to do the maintenance projects or the improvements to our school sites and not let them deteriorate too far to where it's a ginormous cost to fix this. Any questions so far until we move on?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. The next is just, I wanted to show, here's our picture, a snapshot. And I know we just had first interim, but I felt like with all of this, it would be helpful just to show what our anticipated revenues are in our unrestricted and restricted fund, what our anticipated expenditures are. We always want to spend down in restricted, as long as those, I mean, we never want to overspend that, but we always want to spend that down. So a negative over on the restricted side doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing. It means we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with these dollars to spend them within the time frame that we've been given. Contributions, we're estimating contributions are to special education. We have to make a 3% contribution into the routine restricted maintenance account. And I think that's about it. We don't have a contribution to Fund 40 in the budget at this time for this year. So then you can see under the unrestricted, that brings us to deficit spending of $176,000, which isn't horrible, but again, we haven't negotiated any salary increases yet either. And then $3 million from the restricted side, that's fine. Our beginning fund balance was $3.9 million. With the 176, it leaves it at 3.7. Our required 3% reserve in our general fund right now is almost $2.4 million. Our reserve, the way it sits without the 3%, just pure reserve is 4.77. You pull out that, the 3% that we're required to maintain in our fund. That leaves a balance about 1.4 million. That's what we have to work with for our bargaining and for any other kind of, we always try to budget for any kind of special education increases, and, you know, whether that can be a non-public placement or a special education settlement, any kind of, anything that comes up. So, that's our budget snapshot. So moving on, I know you, the board had, so this is why you can't even see this, but yeah. This is our general fund, which is the biggest. I tried to squeeze everything onto like 1 page each. So these are the forms that you had stated you liked from me at the May special board meeting. So I did it again for this, with this year's budget. I broke down on page 1, this is our general fund. This is what it looks like. These are the expenses. I did high level for the most part, unless I felt like I needed to call them out, of what our anticipated costs are, and then where our costs, it'll show the budget, what we're budgeting, what we think we're gonna spend, and then the expense and any encumbrances. So, you can see where we're at this time of year with our spending trend, and then what's budgeted. And then at the bottom, I broke down just staffing based on sites, the certificate classified, and then with the sites budgets, or sites or departments, what their individual budgets are. And then I broke this out, so the next, I think it's 2, 3, 4, 6, until you get to kind of the salmon colored divider. These are all in the general fund. They're all unrestricted, but they do have their specific resources. So the next page 2 is the CYBHI, and we started receiving some of those dollars. So this is the breakdown of the CYBHI dollars. They're technically restricted, but then they're not, if that makes sense. It comes with restrictions, we do have to use it, but the state wants us to put it in the unrestricted side of the budget. Okay. These other 2, page 3 and 4, the self-testing, we still get a little bit of money from the self-testing. Periodic. It's, yeah, these come, this in the cast. We still get some dollars. These are real old resource numbers and old funding sources that just kind of keep rolling. They're not big dollar amounts. They're usually around $5,000 for the salts and cast is maybe 10,000. And you can see, like this year, we haven't even received those dollars. It just comes, like, we never really know when it's gonna come. It's whenever the CE decides to send it to us. So we had to book, you can see if it says PY under prior year. This was last year's money, but we probably didn't receive it until this year. And then our Medi-Cal admin dollars, on page 5. So there's different pots of Medi-Cal. So you'll see this piece here, you'll see another piece in the restricted side of the budget. As you're looking through here, you may see some similar themes of names of things. They're tied, but we just have to, the state tells us where to put the dollars, and so this is how it's all divvied up. So here's our MA dollars and how we're spending this. A lot of times these dollars come in and we do some transfers between the other MA. We might expense the stuff that we have going into the restricted side and move it over here to spend these dollars down. So again, it's having monthly conversations or weekly conversations with the different departments. Samantha usually has those meetings with the department heads, and she'll bring all this information to them. And there's discussions about, okay, here's where we're at now, here's our anticipated expenditures, this pot's looking a little thin, but this one's looking, so we're gonna move these dollars over here. That's, again, I mean, the board knows budgets aren't static, they're constantly moving and evolving. And then unrestricted lottery is on page 6, so you can see our unrestricted lottery. And here's a case in point. Right now, we budgeted under the insurance and the self. The self is ginormous now. That's due to the 8218 bill. And our premium has exponentially gone up over years. Sad. So right now we're looking at a $1 million, little $1 million plus, that our premium is gonna be for that. We plugged it into lottery. Right now, if you look over on unrestricted, you'll see the charge in there, but no budget. And we'll just start talking about seeing where our restricted or our unrestricted fund is, how it's looking. We may move some of those dollars between each other. When you look at the whole budget, all of this under the unrestricted rolls up into one. But I'm just breaking out some of these things that are specific. Questions so far? Am I boring you yet?
No, actually, I do have one question. What's SELF stand for?
SELF?
Yeah.
California English.
No, self.
Oh, self.
SELF. S-E-L.
Self.
It's
Self-insured, oh gosh, self-insured.
insured liability fund.
Liability fund. yeah.
Liability fund.
So it's a different layer. We have our JPA fund that we pay the premium to for our JPA.
Okay.
Insurance. And then, so there's a layer there. And then, for any claims, workers' comp, all that stuff. And then there's another layer in between, and then if it goes beyond what that layer is, then it kicks up into self.
Got it, okay, so that's the last.
That's the last layer
Okay.
of our insurance.
Got it,
That brings you
I learn something new every time, so.
I know.
We need just like an accurate chart overall.
Yeah. Okay, moving into the restricted side of the house. Here's our ELOC dollars on page, now we're starting anew because this is actually the salmon multicolored divider. So starting with page 1, that's our ELOC dollars. It's our extended learning opportunity program. I can whip that one out. Excuse me. And then here's our student support, the new funds that came in this year. Educator effectiveness dollars, that's expiring this year. Our restricted lottery. Historically, restricted lottery, you cannot, there's certain things that you cannot spend in restricted lottery that the state designates to us. Some of it's, like capitalized or non-capitalized equipment. They prefer to see what they say as hands-on, classroom-based materials. So, most districts, the easiest non-auditable expenditure to do out of this is textbooks or other books. State will never question if they see that line item and it's under that object code. You're not gonna get audited on that, so for the amount of monies that we get, that's a good place to, you know, either build up that fund if we know there's gonna be a big adoption, or be spending our supplemental materials for our textbooks and stuff out of there. Arts, music, block grant, that was another one-time, I'm trying to remember when that expires.
I have a spreadsheet.
I know, that's right. Anyways, that's another one-time that we've received, that I believe may be expiring next year.
It's actually Sam's spreadsheet.
Sam's
This year?
Through
It's this year?
25, 26.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's not sad that those monies are expiring, because now we have Prop 28. The next page. So Prop 28 is for music, dance, any kind of those types of things, art. And these dollars, I would say, are solid in the fact that it was constitutionally voted on, and it will have to be voted on again to ever remove these dollars by the legislature. What we have to watch though is Prop 28 is tied to the state's revenues. So revenues go up in the state, schools get more funding. Revenues go down, schools get less funding. So the funding for this does fluctuate based on the state's revenues. I put in here, this is an acronym, we call it CSAP, but it's the California School Employees Association, CSEA's Summer Assistance Program. So the state matches that dollar for dollar of what the employee puts in. A district still has an expense, and I just wanted to let the board know there's still an expense tied to that. It's not completely, we don't have anything to do with it. What the state does not pay for is the statutory fringes on the dollars that are generated by the participants, or the matching funds for the summer assistance. So we're looking at about a $218,000 expense based off of prior year's usage and employees and our statutory fringes. Here's our learning recovery block grant that we've gone over previously. Here's another fun one, our STRS on Behalf. This is part of our budget. It's a net zero. The state's mandated school districts to do this calculation every year. We have to show the expense of what that calculation is, but then we also have to show the revenue. We do not receive revenue for that. It's a net zero. It's the state's, hold on to this one. We pay into STRS, employees pay into STRS. The state actually pays into STRS also. This is the state's dollar amount that they want districts to calculate in case there's ever that liability. So I was always suspect when this first came about. This is somewhat new within the last 8 years or whatever. It was just like, why are you making this? And then we have to calculate our 3% reserve off of the whole total's fund of expenditures. So this is an expenditure, even though it's not really. And so that, it just increases our 3% reserve because we're not receiving anything and we're not really spending anything. But it has to be, it's an accounting mechanism for the state to show districts what the state's portion of their STRS contribution is to us.
Wait, do you happen to know off the top of your head what percentage that their contribution is for I mean, ours is high.
Ours is 19.01.
Yeah, so what would
Or
that?
19.1. Employees is 8.25, I think. I think the state is 3, it's much lower. I
Well,
wanna
that's
say
bigger,
it's
that's
like
kind of my point.
3, yeah, I wanna say it's like around 3-ish% compared to what the employee pays out of their paycheck and then what the district pays on behalf. The district takes the lion's share of 19.1 of every dollar. This is just a small, it's a literacy grant that we have, M-Class.
Yeah, it's the new requirement for dyslexia screening in K through second grade, so they gave us a little small amount of money to get it off the ground this year. And we used it to purchase the MPAS program, which is our literacy screen.
And then our ACES program, that's the after-school program, that's, I think it's, we have it at both middle schools, Lindo Park, and I believe Dream may have, or no, it's just the 2 middle schools in Lindo Park, I think, who qualify for the ACES. It's for underprivileged students. Huh? Lemoncrest?
Lemoncrest is on your list.
Oh, is it Lemoncrest?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
And then 2 middles.
Or no, I have Lindo Park, TDS, Lemoncrest, and LMS. So, it's just the after-school program. It's based off of a reimbursement. It's based off of attendance and then reimbursement based on the attendance of the students who show up. Getting into our NCLB or Title I titles, these are federal dollars. Currently this year, we're expecting to receive around $600,000 in Title I dollars. You see the expenditures, how we're spending them, which school sites are getting them. The one that fell out this year that we'll be making this adjustment to is Lakeside Farms. So I think they've actually only spent maybe in actual expenses $5,000, and so we'll be journaling that money over into somewhere else, and then zeroing out that line item, that budgeted item for them. We received Title II, that's for, the most part, professional development for our staff. So we spend a little bit, I believe one of our coordinators will, again, piecing and parting, since they're qualified to have this expense towards their salary, we will expense the 9% or 10% or whatever it is that's allowable to their salary, just to give them cost savings. Title IV, student support, again, any kind of travel, conference, and professional services and supports for those schools that need materials and supplies there. Title III is there's 2 Title IIIs. One's the language LEP program, I think that's the 4203, and the immigrant ed is 4201. Little buckets of dollars. Title III goes towards our English language learners, any textbooks, programs, conference expenses that our teachers can benefit from. 4510, it's Indian, it's still called Johnson / Indian Ed. We're just spending these down, super hard to spend these dollars. They're very specific and targeted. We try to utilize it wherever we can. We don't receive any more funding for that, so this is it. And we're just, in any given year, if there's an expense that qualifies, we'll spend it.
What can it be used for? Like, what are they aiming for?
The children from reservations and help and support, trying to remember now, I haven't even read.
Well, yeah, because it's money that we're just trying to spend. I think last year, Leslie, I think we used some of it to do,
We did a cultural day for Honey.
Right, because that's
If
what
you
I
could
was
send a
thinking,
field
like,
trip
can
up
it
to-
be used to like work with, you know, Verona,
Mhm.
like their cultural museum,
Yes,
things
yes.
like that. That seems to be like a partnership we used to have that might,
Yeah.
I mean, it would benefit students,
Mhm.
so that may be something that we wanna look at again.
Yeah, I think we're currently, I want to say Linda does something with, like you said, the cultural center, or having them come down, and it's just those little dollar amounts that sometimes they'll come down for free, so it's-
yeah.
Right.
They were just at Lemon Crest last week, but there was no charges this year.
yeah.
Yeah, but like even if that.
But their
could be
bus,
used
like, if
for
we
even,
had
like,
the bus
transportation to go up
transportation.
there to see like the two movies that they have
Mhm.
and things like that.
Yep,
I mean, they're really cool.
yep. Now moving into, on page 17, moving into our special ed buckets, there's a whole lot of them. There's really two sides, there's a federal side and the state side, so anything that starts with threes is the federal side, it's usually the IDA dollars, and then anything that starts with 6 is usually the state side of things for special ed, so if you remember that, then you know which buckets those funds come from, or which, the fed or the state. So we have just our special ed IDEA, Part B, that's the biggest one. Probably the biggest part of that is we fund, the majority of our instructional aids out of those dollars. We have IDEA, private school, that we have to pull out a certain amount, for any private school students that have special needs. IDEA preschool. IDE parent private school. We do get on both federal and state side, mental health, we get dollars from both sides. So the 3327 is the federal mental health. We receive about $55,000 for that. We get a little tiny bit, $327 for preschool staff development. Let's see, IDEA early interventions, around $25,000. Again, a lot of these go towards the staff that we have, that we've hired for special education. And then I think that's the last one, on page 24, the IDEA supports for inclusionary students, inclusionary supports for students, about $28,000. And then we jump over into the state side. This is the majority of the funding, 8602. You can see that there's different sped actually, the $8602 actually gets a portion of the property tax from the county that the SELPA's in. So you can see that about $3.6 million comes from the 8602, about 445,000, because they go back 3 years, they're always truing up just like the state does. So we operate in our current year, but with state budgets and with the special education, the SELPA budgets, they generally go back and true up stuff because there's constant movements with ADA and adjustments and this and that, and so they'll true up stuff and you can either benefit from it or you might have to pay back dollars from it. So prior year property tax, I'm sorry, that wasn't, our property tax was about $445,000. Our prior year apportionment, we ended up on the bid, got an additional, after they trued up the prior 2 years, we got around $47,000 additional. from that true up. We'll still be making a contribution to, our special education because the costs exceed the revenues that we receive. And, so this year we're projecting about $7.3 million from the general fund to special education. And then there's some ones, from the state, some funding sources, special education, early ed. Here's the other mental health on the state side, $357,000. And the mental health and stuff, these are where we'll fund our, we'll use these dollars to, fund our EIAs, our ECDAs, any of those types of folks that help with the mental health services within our district. Early intervention pre-K, and then on page 29, here's, I spoke to this before, our routine restricted maintenance account requires to calculate 3% at our adopted budget of our expenditures again. And then we have to put this over into this routine restricted maintenance account. Anytime a district has ever gone out for a state facility bond, which we have, then for 25 years you're required to put 3% from your general fund over into this maintenance account. And so this is where the majority of all of our maintenance folks, our gardeners, anybody who's keeping up, all of those salaries go into this, and then also any kind of just general maintenance across our district. We have donations, so page 30 is, and again, I pulled out some ones I thought would be important or relevant to the board, but then all this first page on page 30, these are our donations from PTA, from parent donations, like any donations the district gets, any and all. This is just lumped in. There was way too many to individualize each one. But I just took the beginning balance where we started, what we're anticipating on receiving this year from all of those, where they're expensed out, and then the sites with those budgets, you can kind of see where, who has what. So then we get into the middle school consortium. So this is the CTE grant. And again, I haven't added because we just heard about the $192,000, so that hasn't been updated in the budget quite yet. It will be by second interim. We have another one called Project Alert that we have to track the funds separately. I don't show any revenues or anything like that. I don't think we've received the actual grant award yet on it, but we know it's coming. Community Opportunities Program, it's another specialized program that falls under our local restricted. These are just grants that our school sites or the departments have gone out for. EPA, that was our buses that we qualified, the federal grant that we qualified for the electric buses. So this is the tail end of that. We won't be getting any monies for it, but it's just that expense because we're waiting for those last buses to be delivered. Once they will, then this will be fine. Comp Health Ed, some dollars there, grant. Here's the other Medi-Cal. Here's the other piece of the Medi-Cal. Saw the admin one over on the unrestricted side. This is a restricted side, and this is the Medi-Cal. This is, we're spending, I want to say there's some staffing that's funded from this. There's some large contracts that we have to do with mental health or anything that qualifies qualifies within this, the Medi-Cal, it's a billing system. So there's some work that's involved in this that you have to do, actually a lot of reporting to turn those in to get the reimbursements. I don't know, now, I think they're never up to date. So we really have to watch this fund to make sure that they'll give us updates of what we're supposed to be getting, but we might not see it for like a year or 2 years later. And then they're making adjustments, and then they do this, and
And
so.
then they audit us, and take money back.
And then they take money back, and so it's a constant.
We try to keep a balance in this fund because we've had it where they've audited us and they audit you from 2 to 3 years ago. So they do an audit of 2 years ago and then say, oh, we gave you too much money, you need to give us, and we've had that happen before. So we try to be very careful not to spend that fund down too much in case something like that happens again. One time they said they didn't give us enough money and they gave us a little bit more. So it does work both
Yeah.
ways, but not quite as often on the plus way, more often on the minus way.
So we like to cover at least, because staff are tied to that you wanna keep at least enough in the fund to cover a couple of years out if something went really south, that we could at least cover that through the remaining balance and then make any kind of adjustment. It gives us time to plan to make any kind of adjustments that may be needed with staffing or contracts.
And then we also have a committee that meets twice a year, and it's the way the law is written, that the folks who bill, so these are for medical services that the school district provides, and so they consider like a psych assessment, a speech assessment, speech services, health services, so those folks can bill back, and it's like we are getting reimbursed, it's a reimbursement program, but then the people who are reimbursed, we have to have a representative committee of those people, and they are the committee that decides how we spend that, if that makes sense. And we can support, but we cannot supplant. So we can add value, but we cannot use this money to pay for something we were paying for anyway. So there's rules, as with everything.
The last 3 pages, I just wanted to give the board our current, I ran the enrollment reports as of January 9th. And so this was enrollment, students who are actually enrolled, not where ADA is, but enrollment at each of the school sites, so it can give the board an idea. I did run, so any questions before I? I was just looking ahead to next year. Based off of these numbers, I'd like to run the projection numbers for next year and the year after. From beginning of February, which is right around the corner. I just kind of wanted to see if I ran numbers before winter break and then after winter break, and sometimes sites will see a big drop or a big increase within the winter break period. So I was really curious just to see what happened. I didn't see any significant, there was no material increase or decrease between going out of winter break and then enrollment, and then we came back on the 6th, so I took it at the end of that week, of our first week back. I'll run the numbers again the 1st of February, and then I generally share them out with our principals of what the projections are for next year. And then that's when we really start talking about getting really in depth. You know, we're gonna talk to the principals about, you know, what are you seeing at your campus? What are you anticipating? Here's what we're projecting the numbers to look like. Does that look reasonable to you? Because then this all drives the staffing. And so looking at it right now, going into next year, we could possibly be looking at 2 less teachers. I know we're getting retirements, and so this is actually, if we do end up seeing that 2 teachers district-wide we would be overstaffed if we kept them, but we are looking at, generally each year, we're getting about 4 retirements a year. So that's wonderful for us because then you're not having to lay off anybody. That's tenure you come back. You're looking at, through attrition, now you're looking at, do I need to retire? You know, let's really look at those numbers and see about the retiring. So that's my initial going into 26, 27 is, the layoff piece isn't going to be anything other than, I don't see anything from CSEA besides attrition. There may be, and I'm super proud of the folks around here, like the, I was about to say, staff around her, the administrators, because everybody's very cognizant of if somebody does leave, they really, you know, grabbed a hold of, let's look now at, do I need to retire this person at the exact same hours? At, you know, do I need to restructure something? Because this has been the same position for years and years, but as we all know, things really morph and change in education. So what is the need now? So those are questions that staff are really, admin staff are asking themselves when people leave positions. So, and I've always said that's the best way to go about and to stay right-sized with your district so that you're not horribly overstaffed and then you're going, oh my gosh, we need to do layoffs and it's not a pleasant experience for anybody. And so if you can do it through attrition or reorganization, that is amazing. And I believe that staff have been really, you know, taking that to heart and going with that. So, going into February, would it be February's meeting?
Yeah.
That we'll need to, it'll be the normal, temporary.
Yeah, we'll have a couple of temporaries and then we'll have a couple of folks who already have taken, you know, their plans for next year, they're resigning. And then hopefully, you know, if the numbers hold, all that good stuff, then, you know, that's what we always want to bring to the board is, you know, we want to avoid layoffs at all possibilities if that's the direction the board wants us to go.
I mean, we're looking at, so we're still coming out of COVID, the numbers.